So do you think the biggest hip-hop/pop artist in the world just lost his goddamn mind and decided to sue his record label UMG after losing a career-ending rap battle to his arch nemesis, or is there something deeper here? Well, there's a lot to unpack, because what we do know is that Drake, one of the biggest artists in the world, is basically petitioning his label in a legal battle for the evidence to sue them, claiming that they manipulated streams to boost his rival, essentially doing one of the most brutal and toxic and brand-burning battles of all time, and allegedly did this while also in one of the biggest contract negotiations of all time in order to lower Drake's stock so they could take advantage of him while using the momentum from Kendrick Lamar's feud with the man. And this is the thing, if Drake's accusations are true, this could expose dirty label practices that could shake the music industry to its core on a level that we haven't seen since Michael Jackson. And that's just the beginning, because beyond just industry-shaking news, we still have the story of Drake, who over the year, his personal brand, which was once built on him being vulnerable and connection, has been unraveling. He went from being the most connected, honest, and raw artist of our generation to being the most disconnected pop icon of our generation. And this lawsuit is not just about contracts and numbers, it's about power, authenticity, and what happens when an artist's brand starts to crumble under its own weight. You see, we're gonna dive into the Kendrick Lamar battle for sure, and the lawsuit with UMG and what that means, and how Drake has been trying to, restart the fire of his career and reconnect with his fans, but that might be too late. But beyond the headlines, this is about branding, business, and what happens when an artist loses their purpose. And that's what we do here, because I'm Joe Stone, a creator with 1.8 million followers, successful show on Snapchat, but now I spend my time on business, purpose, and spirituality, and unpacking the secrets of it all. And if you're into that and want to join me on this journey, hit the subscribe button. Now, let's be real. After Kendrick Lamar and Drake's battle, we weren't talking regular levels of diss trackery. This went even beyond Tupac and Biggie I F to B, where Tupac claimed that he slept with a man's wife. Kendrick Lamar literally labeled Drake the worst thing that you can call anyone ever, a PDF file. Now, if you can't figure that out, then you on the wrong show, because whatever, but you get the idea. And what Kendrick Lamar was able to do in his diss tracks was shine a light on what people had been whispering about on the internet for years. Allegations about his character, him liking young women, and also just his authenticity as an artist. But for Kendrick, as we all know, this wasn't about music. He was making a statement, and he was using Drake's entire reputation as a war cry to the industry. And as he burnt it down, in a world where perception is everything, that shit hit different. But what came next? And then things would get worse when we would find out that Kendrick got the Super Bowl spot. It was probably going to be performing Not Like Us, calling Drake a PDF file in front of the whole world. But even with all of that, things had kind of calmed down in the world of the beef. Seemed like both of them had just stopped, and Drake had conceded that he had lost. Well, or at least that there was going to be a round two, and he had essentially lost round one. But what came next would again be what everyone's talking about now. Drake essentially doing hip-hop's version of telling the teacher on his label after losing the battle. Now, this is on multiple levels insane because of what it means for Drake, his position in hip-hop, and what this would have to mean if he went through it. Because one of two things has to be happening. Either he's completely crazy and completely tone-deaf and doesn't realize that in 2025, you, Drake, who has been accused of being a culture vulture, being accused of being more Jewish than black, or just not black at all, and being even caught in blackface, one thing you wouldn't do is go run to the police when you lose a rap battle. Because essentially, you would be betting your career and everything you had built up to that point on this shit working out. So I have to believe that there is real proof that Drake somehow believes that he will attain by making these illegal actions and essentially accusing his label of buying streams and peeling back the covers on the industry. Because what he's alleging is Kendrick's streams were inflated during his beef to make him look bigger, and they didn't stop there. You gotta understand, UMG was allowing their biggest artists, or one of their biggest artists, a billion-dollar brand, to take an L where you have a man calling him a PDF file on primetime radio, on every streamer and YouTube, everywhere. The entire world is calling him that. In what business would any of that be allowed? And essentially, UMG says, well, we let the streets decide. No, you don't. We know you don't. You telling me out of all times where you protect your assets at any other time, you don't stop it here when it is endangering a billion-dollar brand that you are a part of? No, you can't convince us of that. So to Drake's point, it doesn't make sense. And at the very least, like, yes, was Drake expecting the game to be rigged in his favor? Yeah. Was that wrong? Yeah. But does that mean that he's right about this? Yeah. So what does that mean for the industry? Exactly. What happens when the inside guy is now the outside guy? That's what I'm trying to get you to see here. And this makes even more sense when you hear that Drake had reportedly recouped every dollar UMG spent on him and was at the height of his bargaining power. He wasn't just asking for a raise, he was in a position to completely rewrite the terms of his deal. But instead of bending to his demands, allegedly UMG may have thrown him under the bus. And if what Drake is claiming turns out to be true, this isn't just a messy feud. It's a bombshell that could expose how labels manipulate numbers, control narratives, and exploit their biggest stars. And no one is safe if Drake isn't safe. That's the point here. You see, this is bigger than Michael Jackson's fight against Sony. If Drake wins, it could force the entire industry to reckon with its practices. We're talking about fundamental change on a scale that we can't even imagine, because you got to understand, traditional media is entrenched. That shit don't change for nothing. Anyone that's had any dealings with traditional media understands that. And the music industry is a dressed up version of that, just partnering with tech companies. So there is probably a real story to be had here. The problem is that if Drake loses, he loses his credibility as an artist and a businessman, which he does not have a lot of left. But honestly, we're here because of the erosion of Drake's brand over time. Kendrick was able to strike when Drake looked like he was at his strongest. He looked invincible, but in reality, he was at his weakest. You see, early in his career, Drake gave us music that felt raw, emotional, and deeply personal. This was the core of his brand. Drake didn't just make songs, he made confessions. He talked about girls that he knew personally, told us stories that he wasn't supposed to tell, and treated us like his diary. And in a world where everyone was commercialized and super tough, Drake being vulnerable made everybody feel comfortable and fall in love with them. People literally were connected. But over time, the vulnerability disappeared, and I feel like it was really around the time where he went to war with Meek Mill. After Drake won that battle with Meek Mill, it was the beginning of the end for him, because after that, we saw a new version of Drake. He cut his hair short, gave us the ball fade, grew out a beard, started rapping super gangster, had a new tough persona, because essentially at that time, Meek Mill was the most gangster rapper in the game. He was the fucking Tupac at that point. Literally, Tupac is Back was his single. Drake took him down, the toughest guy in the industry up to that point, the hottest young rapper gangster guy. Drake ripped his face off, made him look lame, destroyed his career irreparably, to where even a Drake feature couldn't bring it back. And I feel like whatever scars he developed from that battle made him become a lot more disconnected. He started creating music that was a defense instead of a connection. He created distance between himself and his audience, and I believe to protect himself. And that's when, again, we got the bearded, badass, tough guy version of Drake that we hadn't seen before. His brand became more about looking like Drake than being Drake. He stopped being someone you could relate to and turned into someone you could only admire from a distance. But fast forward to today, and he's trying to undo that distance. And that's the reason why he dropped that 100 gigs. That was a rebrand. A whole bunch of unreleased content from the time where you remember loving Drake the most. Footage and scenes that we had never seen before. And while it was cool, I feel like it was like a whole lot way too late. He was trying to show us the real me, but like you had our entire the last 10 years to do that. And it feels like it's a last ditch effort when we kind of don't care anymore or don't think you're cool anymore. And this is the thing. No one believes it's like Drake can't make a hit record. They don't trust who he is as a person. And in 2025, your personal brand and who you are matters as much as what you sell, because everything is a thing. Everyone is trying to sell you something. And if people can't connect to you, then it doesn't matter what it is. And when you spend years building walls between yourself and your audience, it's not easy just to tear them down overnight. People know better. They were there. They experienced you already. So don't act like they're dumb. But let's take a second to pause and zoom out and look at the whole story again through the lens of, what we're here for: business, spirituality, and purpose. Because there's a lot that we're talking about. I don't want us to get lost. You see, when it comes to business, the music industry is brutal, and Drake's lawsuit is proof. If UMG really manipulated streams and threw their biggest star under the bus, that's a level of business coldness most artists aren't prepared to handle. But here's the thing. Business is also about trust, and if Drake's own brand starts to crack, that trust disappears, and this lawsuit is really here or there. I mean, you could get a bag, but you won't get the audience. You won't get the people. You won't get your fans. Spirituality. You see, vulnerability was Drake's secret weapon. It wasn't just about his music. It was about how he made fans feel seen. But somewhere along the line, he stopped showing up emotionally and gave us all bravado and no heart. And now when he needs to connect with people on a deeper level, for them to hear him out, see his point of view, hear his story, relate to him, they can't, because the gap is too far between him and his audience. It just feels too wide for people to cross right now, and he's got to figure out a way to crack that shit. Purpose. This is the big one. What does Drake stand for? Being famous, maybe taking advantage of women, regardless of what their age is. I don't know. Earlier in his career, we got songs like I Just Want to Be Successful, where we saw, a kid just honestly dealing with life, dealing with love, dealing with chasing his success, and watching him become great and make his dreams come true. And because he was so talented, because he worked so hard, we loved watching him excel till he wasn't the Drake that we all fell in love with anymore. It's hard to be the underdog and stay the underdog when you're the biggest dog in the game. But now the only cool thing about Drake is his numbers. And it's like, if that's the only thing you're built on, and you're saying that is not even real, or that you're the only guy in the game that is real, what does it mean? What does it mean? And especially if you do just honestly have any type of dip and decline. If that's all your brand is, then it will crumble with your relevance that fast. Why tie it to something so fickle? But I mean, let's be real. So I know what you're thinking. Joe, this is bad. Is Drake gonna be okay? Do we need to fucking call him and see if he needs help? No. Can Drake fix his brand? Is it possible? Well, this is what we learn our lessons from, and this is important. So pay attention, because we've saved the best for last. What can you learn, and what does he need to do, and how can you apply it as a creator, building a brand, building a business that is going to have to face situations like this at one point or another in some shape or form? So can Drake fix his brand? Well, maybe, but it's going to take more than an Instagram dump and a lawsuit. Let's keep it real. To rebuild, he needs to show people something real. He needs to own his mistakes. He needs to tell his story with honesty and stop running from things people criticize him for. Address it. Sit down and stop going just on random streams and having these dry-ass poker sessions. Have a real interview. Sit down and talk to people. You're now becoming that real weird recluse that no one relates to, because we haven't seen you talk to a real person ever. We ain't seen Drake have real interviews ever. He's probably did 3-4 in the last 5 years. We have no connection to you, and then you don't sit down and open up and talk to your fans in any real way. Vulnerability is not just about showing us how you came up. It's about showing who you are in this moment, who you are as a father, who you are as a man, who you are as a person. That is what Kendrick Lamar attacked. And because people don't know who Drake is, it was easy for him to attack it. There is no other opinion that you haven't allowed people to get to know you at all. So show people who you are in the moment. Honestly, if anybody can pull this off, it is definitely Drake. But it's gonna take courage to do so. You see, again, the story is not about music. It's a lesson in branding, authenticity, and the power of perception. It's proof that no matter how successful you are, if you lose your connection to people, everything else can and will fall apart. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Drake can battle back? Do you think that do you think that they will catch UMG in some type of big conspiracy and this will, prove that Drake is right and solve all the things, especially if he gets like $1 billion from Universal? Do you think that this is the end of Drake's career? And do you think that he has the awareness or even just the know-how to know how deep this problem is and what it is and to fix it and will fix it? Maybe he needs to watch this video. Hey, yo, somebody send this shit to Drake. I'm here if you need me, baby. But if you're into business, purpose, and spirituality, and you want to join us on this journey, figure it all out and find the secrets to better myself, and hopefully you can do the same, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want our Viral Creator Secrets ebook completely for free, go to thejoestone.com. I will see you in the next one.